Welcome to Watertown Sports Talk, everyone. I'm Richard Najarian. My guest today, Mr. Frank Cousineau, is and was considered one of Watertown's great athletes. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He participated at Watertown High School in football, basketball, hockey, and baseball, was an all-scholastic football player in 1946, as well as an all-suburban league player. And he won the prestigious Hoyt-Thurber Trophy at Watertown High School. He went on to Manlius Military Academy, where he led it in football, baseball, and basketball, and won the Manlius, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, Frank will correct me, award for Outstanding Athlete in 1948. His career then took him to Boston College, where he excelled in football from 1948 to 1950. He then entered the U.S. Army, where he continued his football career, being elected to the U.S. Army All-European Football Stars and Stripes in 1952. He returned to Boston College and continued his outstanding career in football from 54 to 56 and won the B'nai B'rith Award as the outstanding senior player. While at BC, he also was considered an excellent kicker. Whether he did that in high school or not, we'll find out, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Frank then became a teacher at Watertown High School from 1956 to 1989. He also coached many sports at Watertown High School and also was the Harvard freshman football coach from 1967 to 1986. He is, of course, a member of the Watertown Hall of Fame. Wow, quite an introduction, quite a guy. Frank, welcome to Watertown Sports Talk.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you here. All right, Frankie, I skip around a lot, so my questions don't fall in any order, so bear with me. Let's talk first about your high school football career. Any outstanding memories? I'm sure you have a lot, but anything that stands out in your mind from your high school career, among many things that may stand out?
Well, I guess the Woburn game over in Woburn in 1946, yeah. Billy Wickstrom threw a couple of passes to me, and I scored a couple of touchdowns and kicked the extra points. They had a defensive back, Johnny Fields, was a track man, and I didn't outrun him, but I gave him a stiff arm and beat him down the sidelines.
Great.
I guess he tripped. But that was a big game for me, individually and collectively for the team, too, you know. I guess the only other thing, it wasn't part of my career, but we used to have to dress down here in Watertown High School.
Yeah, tell the folks about that.
And we would dress here and walk up Marion Road to the
to Victory Field.
Victory Field and play the game, walk back. And the reason they stopped that is too many fights broke out.
Between?
The fans.
Oh, I see.
Not the players.
Yeah.
But the fans would harass the kids, and it was just, it shouldn't have happened, but it did.
Yeah, not a good situation.
Yeah. So then we went underneath the the field house wasn't built back then, which is dedicated to my father, incidentally.
Excellent. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. So, Frankie, what position did you play in high school, or did you play several?
No, I was an end.
An end?
An end, yeah. Always an end, but they had a quarterback problem my first year, and they used me in there for a little bit, but I never actually played in a game, but I was a backup just in case.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, let's talk about your transition from high school football to college football. Was it difficult, as you can recall, going to BC and then playing there?
Well, no, I think the buffer of going to Manlius Military Academy, West Point had recruited me, and that's an engineering school. All I had was Algebra 1, 2, and Trig, so I needed some more math.
All right, let me interrupt. Folks, did you hear that out there? This guy was recruited by West Point. Okay, continue, Frank, sorry.
Yeah,
make that a point.
But, so I go up to Manlius, and I think the transition of having to live in a military kind of a life, you know, and that gave me better study habits. And when I went into BC, it was, it wasn't a big deal because I guess it was so close to home. I lived at BC, but It was closed down.
So did you try or go to Manlius so that you would see if you liked the military life? Was that part of it, or no?
Well, you have to remember, I'll go back a little bit.
Sure.
At Watertown High School in the 40s, there was no phys ed.
Ah,
We had military training.
I see.
We had wooden guns where we learned the manual of arms. We close order drill. We learned map reading. So when we come out of high school, you would be ready for the military just in case the war wasn't over. But thank God it was over. But I never had any phys ed in high school at all.
I see. All right.
So no, the military life was it was okay for me. I could stand the discipline. It was no big deal. Yeah.
All right, but then you went to BC.
I did.
And the transition was easy, or somewhat easy,
Well,
than if you had gone just from high school. maybe.
no, I think so. I think that year I grew up a little bit, you know. You couldn't play, as a freshman, you couldn't play varsity ball when I went to BC. You had to play freshman football.
Yes, right.
That was another step that made it easier transition to more, I shouldn't say more difficult, but a higher level of play.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And I seemed to adjust, fit in pretty good. I think it was because I could kick the ball. One of my high school coaches, I had 3 different high school coaches, Irving Keene, Frank Keeney, and Joe Murphy had come back from the service. He was my last senior coach. But the one in the middle, Frank Keeney, whose father was a big basketball man in Rhode Island.
Yes, I know of him.
Fast break. But he taught us how to drop kick, hold the ball, and the ball was much more, I guess, more round than it is today.
Yeah, it was.
You know?
You're right.
And how to hold the ball and get a good drop so you could drop kick it. And that helped me kick extra points, kick off, field goals. I could punt it. I could punt it with either leg, actually.
Really?
Almost
That's
equally.
very difficult.
I was learning the drop both ways.
Really?
So that helped me because I could kick the ball. I guess I got more attention than some of the other kids who couldn't.
Well,
from the coaches.
If you could kick and you were good at it, you would, absolutely.
Yeah, well, they put me in different situations.
Yeah.
You know, come over here for field goals. You're on the kickoff team. You're on this. Because back when I played, you played both ways.
Right.
When you get in the game, you never came out.
Now, what was your kicking limited to at BC? Was it kickoffs or was it the whole thing? Punting
Kickoffs, just a couple of punts. Because again, if we had a 4th down and long, one player could come in the game and one come out. So they usually took the quarterback out so he wouldn't have to run down on a punt. No face masks in those days. A lot of stuff happened.
I would guess.
No. Okay. So usually either one of the backs punted or if somebody was injured, I punted a couple of times. But mine was kickoff, extra points, field goals.
Well, then you were a big part of that offense. If you did all that as well as, what was your position at Boston College? Was it?
I was an end, and I
again?
ended up by last year, I moved to tackle because of my speed.
Did you enjoy that move to tackle?
I did.
Really?
I did.
Tell me what your weight was, Frank, in college, generally. What did it
I was
go?
about 205 as an end, and when I come back from the service, I had put on a little weight. I was probably 220,
220.
6'1". But people forget the name of the game is football. There are more punts, extra points, kickoffs. The ball is kicked probably 20, 25 times a game by both teams.
Yeah, you know, people don't think of it that way. I don't think.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plays in the game where the ball has to be kicked and plays return, etc.
Right.
So no, I had a good time at BC. I played with some great players. I was lucky enough to play. I got my varsity letter as a sophomore, which back then was unusual. It was done on games and minutes. You had to appear in every game, and you had to have so many minutes. I forget the number now, but because I appeared in every game, and so I got my letter.
Sure.
I think Mike Rourke, who later went on to catch for the Detroit Tigers, and I think he and I were the only ones that got a letter as a sophomore.
Yeah. So your career at BC, as well as Watertown High, as well as the military academy, was pretty good, pretty outstanding. And you don't have to brag. I'm saying it was.
Well, let me just say it was fruitful and eventful. A lot of things happened.
Okay, fruitful and eventful means very good. So he's not going to say it, but I'll say it. Frank, of course, the tackles today at BC weigh 300 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Little different, huh, today? Yeah, the whole line's 310 or
well,
whatever.
Much different. For example, we couldn't lift weights. They said it would make us muscle-bound.
Yeah, and today?
Well, today, I mean, I work out every day. I work out on my core every day. And I'm 81, soon to be 82.
There you go. Good shape, too.
But I found out that for me, it's something that keeps me going. And back then, you couldn't do it.
Was frowned on.
Well, positively, they didn't want you to.
Yeah, that's funny. Huh? Well, things change. All right, we're going to skip to another thing. Tell us about your dad, Frank, who also was an all-scholastic, played professional baseball, correct, for the Boston Braves, New York, then Giants, they were called?
He was signed by the Giants first.
All right, just give us a brief overview of your dad's athletic career.
Well, he was a great three-sport athlete out of Watertown High. He was all-scholastic in football, basketball, and baseball.
Wow.
Went to Fordham way back in 1919 and got out in 1923 and signed with the New York Giants. And he had a cup of tea in baseball for 5 years. Things were different. Guys like Dickie Berardino, who was on your show, would know that they now have a bullpen coach.
Right, they do.
Gary Tucker, whoever it is for the Red Sox.
They got 17 coaches now.
Yeah. Well, back when my dad played, they kept the third catcher in the bullpen. Warm up, you know, whatever. And he didn't see much action. I think he got up 5 or 6 times. But it was rare that he even got as far as he did because he only had one eye.
Wow. Folks, this is a little interesting tidbit.
Yeah, his left eye was not totally legally blind, I guess you'd call it. He was playing jackknife baseball that they don't play anymore, a game that was played on rainy days on your back porch where you flicked the jackknife, stuck in single, double, triple. His brother flicked it, and it stuck in his left eye.
Oh, boy, huh?
That would be 100 years ago, probably 1910.
Wow.
And they just stitched the eye. They didn't have the technology today to really correct it.
But he went on from there to play, right?
He played all the sports. When he batted, he faced the pitcher. I don't know where the camera is or anything here, but instead of he would face the pitcher because he couldn't pick up the ball with his lead eye. He was a single sitter.
Yeah.
He was, but he got that far. He was just athletic.
But to make it for 5 years, whether he had a cup of coffee for 5 years is...
Then he managed AAA for
he did.
Memphis, Tennessee, Mobile, Alabama.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, he managed until the crash came in 29, and he managed until probably 34.
Wow.
And then with the Depression, they kind of cut back on whatever. And because as a young child, I can remember taking the train down south. I was born in 1928, and I can remember going down.
To see him, yeah. Tell us about the naming of the field house. When did that happen, Frank? I don't mean exact year, but when they built the field house at Victory, they named it after your dad right away?
Well, they built 2 of them. They built the